You're listening to the Pulled by the Root podcast.
Hello, this is Heidi Marble. I wanted to step in ahead of this conversation with Jim Serrano to tell you a little bit more about my experience with him. Jim is an adoptee. He also flung his arms wide open when I reached out to him and asked him to tell his story. Not only did he agree to do that, but he also led me to all of these other incredible people in the adoption community that we are just overwhelmed with the response, people that are willing to share and that want to make an impact. Jim is light and he is love and he is a testimony to what is possible. He has overcome so much in his life. He has also had experiences with sexual abuse, which are very difficult to hear. So please know that that is also in this conversation. The last thing I'd like to say about Jim before you hear everything is that what he felt like to me was just this ball of sunshine in this dark place. His presence is warmth and his grace is evident. I am really looking forward to you sitting back as I did. I just kind of sat back and just allowed his story to wash over me. Hello, precious people. My name is Heidi Marble. This is a Pulled by the Root podcast. I am so incredibly excited and emotional about our guest today, Jim Serrano. I would like to read you his bio, which he made it very brief, but we're going to get into a lot more with Jim. He has been married to his beautiful wife, Tina, and I've seen pictures. She's gorgeous, for 37 years. He was adopted at 6 months old in San Jose, California. He started to search for his bio family at age 36, and he found them at age 38. He also has an incredible website called This Adoptee Life. And I read a blog today that blows my mind, and we'll talk more about that. But Jim, one thing before we get started, I know that some of the podcast people obviously can't see this, but this is a quote box. And inside of it, every time I prepare for a guest, I kind of think about them. I say a little prayer and I pull a quote. And this is the quote that came when I thought of you.
Okay.
And it's actually by Mother Teresa. So here we go. Life is an opportunity, benefit from it. Life is beauty, admire it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a duty, complete it. Life is a game, play it. Life is a promise, fulfill it. Life is sorrow, overcome it. Life is a song, sing it. Life is a struggle, accept it. Life is tragedy, confront it. Life is an adventure, dare it. Life is luck, make it. Life is life, fight for it. And Jim, just based on what I've seen with your martial art and your spirit, I think that quote was definitely intended for you. And I think it would be really helpful for our viewers and all of the people in the adoption constellation, helping professionals, just to know whatever you'd like to share about your story. And then we'll get in deeper with some questions. So I'm gonna sit down here and let you talk.
Okay. Do you want me to start from the beginning and everything?
You start wherever you want to. I think that would be really, really helpful though, just to let people know the journey. Yeah.
Okay. Well, my name is Jim, of course. My wife is Tina. Like Heidi said, we've been married for 37 years this coming July. I was adopted. My birthday was January 22nd, 1962. So I was adopted from San Jose, California at 6 months of age. My mom and dad adopted me and an older sister. She's a year older than me. And so they adopted us, like I said, in 1962. I just turned 59 a few months ago. So they adopted us from San Jose, California, and we were raised in Gilroy, California. That's maybe about 30 minutes from San Jose. So, like I said, we're raised in Gilroy, California. So I say at 6 months of age, they adopted us, and after the early years of being adopted, I guess I could say it was an up and down life situation in those years in living up in Gilroy and been raised by my parents. There's one question that I had asked my older sister. My adopted parents already had 3 kids at the time they adopted me and my sister, and they're a lot older than us. They're in their 70s right now. So actually, when they used to carry us, push us, take us down the street in the stroller, people used to think that there was their kid and it was me, but I was actually their little brother. So, like I said, there was a big age difference between me and my 2 sisters and my older brother. So we were raised in Gilroy, like I said. There's one thing I asked my sister 6 months ago. I asked her because I never knew why they adopted me. Why did you adopt me? And finally, I kind of got an answer from my older sister, and she said that the reason they adopted us to fill a kind of maybe a hole in my mom's heart, because they had a younger son. I mean, they had a son named Georgie, and they lost Georgie, I think when he was 2 or 3 years old. I don't know exactly what the age. So they lost him. And so my sister said that my mom was having of course, a hard time with it, and almost like a nervous breakdown. So I'm kind of thinking they adopted us to try to fill that hole in her heart. And because when I look at it, being adopted and stuff like that, I always wondered why. Why did you adopt me? Because growing up in my childhood, there was really no affectionate love, no I love you, no hugging, none of that stuff, because my dad was really old school, Chicano style, don't show no emotion and stuff like that. So through my years growing up, my dad never hugged me, told me he loved me and stuff like that, or even my mother. But finally I had to wait to hear I love you from my mother, and I'll tell you the reason why, what happened for her to finally tell me that those 3 words I always wanted to hear, right? Every adoptee wants to feel loved. And with me,
Of course.
yeah, I was never said those 3 words to me, or even felt it. So that's why growing up, I always thought, he goes, why did you adopt me? It's like, there's no affection.
If you're not even going to tell me you love me or make me feel cared for.
And the funny part about it is, another question I asked my sister that night 6 months ago about why they adopted me is, why didn't anyone ever tell me I was adopted? Because see, no one ever sat me down. No one ever told me I was adopted. The only thing I always remember growing up as in my childhood was them teasing me that they got me at the supermarket. And so that's what I heard all my childhood. They were kind of
my gosh, Jim.
I don't know if they were kind of like making it in a mean way or just joking about it. And I asked my sister, why didn't anybody ever tell me? And she goes, you know what, Jim? I don't know. I don't know why no one sat you down and told you. I goes, it's just weird. I mean, why wouldn't you want to tell me? And so, but they told my sister that was adopted with me. They sat her down to tell her that she was adopted, but they didn't sit down to tell me. But all I heard, it doesn't make no sense, huh? I don't understand it either.
Yeah, I have to ask this question though.
Sure.
How did you find out, and how old were you? Because you obviously found out. So. Yeah,
I think I maybe found out that I was adopted maybe between 11 and 12. That it kind of clicked in my head that, wow, I'm adopted. So yeah, I think around that age that I finally figured out, okay, well, I kind of looked like my dad, but not really. I mean, my eyes are kind of slanted. I mean, people always used to think I was either all my growing up either Filipino or Hawaiian or whatever, you know. And you know, my last name is Serrano, and my parents are Hispanic, and everybody was Hispanic in our family. And I did my DNA like 6 months ago to finally figure out. And so I have it. But after I found all that out, growing up through my childhood and stuff like that, like I said, I never felt loved. I mean, I played sports. I was good in sports. I used to get special awards, you know, for football or whatever. But my dad used to go to these awards and ceremonies, all that. But I never used to hear "good job, son," or "great job," or I never had a hug or no compliment. I'm all thinking, and all my life I'm thinking, man, why did you adopt me? I mean, it's like you. But then I kind of finally figured it out why they did, because to fill that hole from my mom's heart by losing Georgie. And
Wow,
I asked my sister that too, and she kind of agreed with me that maybe that's the reason why. Because why didn't you tell me? And another thing my sister used to tell me is she was, well, your whole attitude of life, you changed between 11 and 12. Your whole situation, you changed. We've seen a big change in you. You got more of a rebellious, angry person. And
well, it makes complete sense, you know. And I'm curious, Jim. You know, you say you figured out that you were adopted. Did you actually? Was there a moment when you confronted your parents and they said, "Yes, you are"? Or
no.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh!
No, because
wow.
You know what? I'm thinking. I think the reason why I never really try to make waves or nothing, because every adoptee feels with that abandonment issue. I thought I would be abandoned again, you know, and I was just trying to be the guy, the son that they would be proud of, the son that my dad would be proud of. I mean, me and my dad worked at the same company in San Jose. We used to drive concrete ready-mix trucks. My dad retired from there, and I retired from there. We both got a Teamster pension. I was there for 30 years. My dad was there for like 20 something years. We both worked together, you know, only father and son to retire from that company. And like I said, I retired in 2012 from that company. And like I said, my dad was a perfectionist. So I could never do nothing wrong. If I did anything wrong, right away, he'll go down my throat, you know. And I mean, I'm not going to say that, you know, back in childhood, I got beat a lot. I remember the beatings. I remember times when my dad used to hit me, and you know, back then it's you get hit, but you better not cry, or you get hit harder. And that's the way I was raised. But
Jim, wow!
I think I had so much love for my my mom because I always remember, I could always hear my mom's voice in the back. That's enough, Jose. That's enough, Jose. That's enough. He's had enough. So I always hear that, because there's one thing that people always say. I always tell Tina, what is the hardest cry you've ever had in your life? And I could always say the hardest cry I ever had was at my mom's funeral at the gravesite, when I had to take off my flower off of my shirt and put it on the casket. And that's when I broke. I just uncontrollable. And I've never cried like that before. I've never cried like that. But I think it was always because of hearing my mom's voice trying to protect me when I was a kid. So further with the story, like I said, there was a lot of issues in my life. I was telling Tina, I did another podcast, and I was a buddy of mine just turned 60. And me and Tina, I used to tell Tina, I goes, man, he just turned 60. He was the first one I started drinking with. This was in 6th grade. I started drinking in 6th grade. That's when I started drinking.
Wow, Jim.
So you could say I had a drinking issue, you know, but I drank a lot because of hiding from reality. There's one thing that through my childhood, why I changed, why I got so angry, was Well, because I just admitted this to my daughter and Tina like 7 years ago. We have a 35-year-old daughter. She's going to be almost 35. It's Elizabeth.
Wow.
And 7 years
Wow.
ago, I remember in a car, we were listening to something on the radio about child abuse. So something told me 7 years ago, because I'm 59 now. So I told them at the age of 52, and we were in the car going to get an ice cream. And I always remember it was that night. And I finally told my wife and daughter that I was being sexually abused from the ages of 9 to 11 by a male cousin. So when people...
Oh, Jim. Wow.
When people ask me why I had so much anger, that's the reason why I had anger. Because see, my dad was so strict in machismo. I could never say that. I could never tell my parents what was happening to me. I didn't tell anybody. For 52 years, I didn't tell anybody what was happening to me from 9 to 11 years old. I mean, there's things all my life that the smells, the scenery of certain issues that brings back those memories. And I'm 59 years old, and you still have that in your head. And then growing up is another thing that I had to deal with, was how sometimes you have a sick mind as someone with so much anger. I mean, through my teenage years, I always remember, it was like ages 15 to 18. I always remember in my head how I was going to go and kill that person, but how I was going to kill myself too after. So I had it all planned out already. I had like 3 different ways how I was going to do it. And it's like, oh man, that's kind of a sick mind and sick way to live life, that you want to go actually kill a person and then take your own life. But that's my life. That's how I was growing up, because I'm holding that secret, and him getting away with it, and me still seeing him at family functions, and he could act like there was nothing wrong, you know? So that's a lot of issues why I drank, and I had a lot of anger growing up. And like I said, Tina, she's been my helpmate for 37 years. And if it wasn't for her, you know, holding me together, and my relationship with Christ too. I mean, there's another story. I'll keep on going with the story. But so growing up, all that happened. And then we were living in a town here in California. It's about an hour away from where we live now, called Los Baños, California. And so I was about 36 years of age. And we were watching a program on TV. I think it was Oprah. It was a talk show, but I'm pretty sure it was Oprah. And they were having guests, adoptees, trying to find their parents. And
I think I saw that show. Yeah.
It was talking about non-identity information, right?
Right.
So when I seen that, I go, wow, I think I'm ready, because my daughter was getting older, and I didn't want her growing up like I did, not knowing who she was, especially the medical issues and all that stuff, right? So
of course.
So finally, they told you what to do. So, like I said, I was born in Santa Clara County. So, and that's where I worked at. The job where I was at was, the county building was only 3 blocks from where I worked at.
Oh my goodness. So
yeah,
all of your records were in there, Jim. Wow.
Yes.
That's intense.
So I went there one of the days after work, and walked in there and asked the lady there at the window. I goes, "Hey, I'm looking for my non-identity information. This is who I am," and all that. So she's, "Okay, well, you need to sign this waiver. You're going to need to sign this, and it'll come to you in a few months." She was saying 4 to 6 months. I said, "Oh, okay," but I was kind of depressed on that, because why is it going to take so long, you know? So
yeah, I mean, you waited all this time, and now you have to wait more.
Yeah, exactly. So, excuse me. So 2 months later, I was walking to the mailbox to go get our mail for the day, right? This is where we're living in Los Baños. And I opened up the mailbox, and there was a letter there. It says County of Santa Clara. And right away I was thinking, well, this couldn't be that yet. It must have jury duty, or I must have got a ticket or something. But I'm trying to figure out, I didn't get no ticket. So I opened it up. It was my non-identity information. So I opened it up, and it said, your mother was 5 feet, 95 pounds. Her and your birth father had a brief affair. She worked in an office, and she had 2 other kids, and she was living with your grandmother at the time of your birth. So that was her. My birth father, if information says he's 5'7", dark hair, dark eyes, brief affair, went to school till 10th grade and quit and went to start working. So I said, okay. So I got that information, right? So this is now the story starts. So after about a month after that, I was on a job site delivering concrete, because that's what we used to do. We used to drive the trucks that deliver concrete to the job sites. So I was delivering concrete to a job site to a gentleman. His name is Carlos Bryan. I've known him for like 20 years because, we see each other almost every other day delivering concrete to he used to work for a construction company. So he asked me, hey, Jim, how you doing? He goes, I'm doing good. Carlos, how you doing? He goes, good. He goes, what have you been up to? And he goes, well, because we always talked about life. I says, well, I'm looking for my biological family. He goes, you are? He goes, yeah. He goes, I mean, Joe's not your dad? I go,
oh,
no,
wow.
it's not my biological dad. No, he's my dad that adopted me. Wow. So he goes, well, what information do you got? So I told him the information of my birth mother. And right away he looked at me and he goes, wow, that's kind of weird. He goes, why? He goes, well, I was dating a girl back. When were you born, Jim? I goes, well, the early 60s. Well, what year? 62. And he goes, wow, I was dating a girl named Marie back in the early 60s. And we had just like a brief affair. And she left.
No.
And I heard that she got pregnant.
You're thinking, this is my dad?
So
wow.
he goes, she got pregnant and I don't know what happened to her. He goes, wow, well, can you look for her for me? And he goes, well, I think I got some information about her. So, okay. And then in my back of my mind, I'm thinking, see, he doesn't know the information I had about him on that paper, because I just told him about my birth mother. See, so Carlos was 5'7", dark hair, dark eyes. And I looked at him, it's okay. So back then, there's no cell phones, right? So I could go to the phone booth, right? And I called Tino right away. He goes, hey, babe, tell me what it says more about my birth father. He goes, well, it says this, that. Okay, and that's the description. Well, how about any other information? And she goes, well, it says, he went to school till 10th grade and he went to work. Oh, okay. So I drove back to the job site. And then Carlos goes, hey, I thought you were empty. I goes, yeah, I'm empty, but I got to ask you a question. I goes, yeah. He goes, did you go to high school? I goes, yeah, I went to high school. He goes, oh, okay. So you graduated and everything, right? He goes, oh, no, I didn't graduate. You didn't?
Oh, my goodness.
I goes,
the plot thickens.
Yeah. So what happened? He goes, well, I quit at 10th grade and went to construction all my life. And I go, whoa.
Oh, my goodness.
I told him what that piece of paper said and his description of my birth father. And he looked at me and I looked at him. He just looked at me. He goes, wow, I think you're my son. And I look at him and goes, you might be my dad. So
wow.
A week later, I was getting ready to start work. And there was another gentleman that used to work with me. His name was Johnny. He was another driver. He goes, hey, Jim, I heard about the story about you and Carlos. He goes, how'd you hear? He goes, well, you kind of told me, and I live with your sister, Carlos's daughter. I've been with her for 5 years, and she wants to meet you. Oh, okay. So I met her at a restaurant with Johnny and her, and we used to have this fair over there in Los Baños. It was called May Day Fair. It was all week, like a county fair. And I asked her, hey, why don't you come up to where I live and you and your son, because she had a son, and come spend the weekend with us so we could get to know each other a little bit more. So she came with her son, and they were really nice people, awesome people. And me and Carlos were planning, because it was around the holidays. okay, we could do this for Christmas, this for Thanksgiving. But see, I didn't tell my adopted family yet, or I even tell my mom and dad that I had found them yet, because there's another guilt trip that was on me the whole time. Was during the time of the search, I was searching, my mom developed breast cancer.
Oh gosh, Jim, that's hard.
I was dealing with that guilt. What type of son are you to go do this while your mom has breast cancer? See, so that's another issue.
So difficult. That's so difficult. Yeah, because there's so much guilt when you search, and I think having the illness play into that too. I can't imagine what you went through during that period.
So
very tough.
I agree. So after I did that, me and Carlos went and did a blood test. And 7 weeks later, it came back. We got the results in the mail, and it was negative. He wasn't my father.
I bet that was hard.
Oh, that was one of the worst days of my life. I remember going to work with my commute partner, and he says that I was just slouched in the cab, and he says, "Man, you weren't there." It was just like, he goes, he didn't know either to take me to work or take me to the hospital, because I was a mess. And so Tina, of course, she tells me, "Babe, don't give up. We'll keep on trying. Don't give up." Right.
Right.
So about 6 months later, my wife was talking to our neighbor across the street. Her name is Connie. Her husband was Dominic. So I guess they were talking, and then they started talking about their husbands. So Connie said, "Hey, did you know that Dominic was adopted?" Goes, "He is?" Goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, Jim's adopted too." Goes, "He is?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Wow." He goes, "Did Dominic
There's
find
more
him?"
than one of us.
Yeah. And I was like,
you
wow.
feel like the only one.
Exactly. For 50 something years, I felt like,
yeah, me too.
One.
Until I found all of you, I was like, am I the alien here?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, my people.
Like, we found each other.
Yeah. So my wife, Connie told Tina, he goes, "Hey, go talk to Dominic." So I went and talked to Dominic. He lived right across the street from me. So he talked about, I think he found his biological parents, but I think they already passed away. I'm pretty sure they had passed away already.
That's difficult too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he found a group. It's called Adoptees Identity Discovery. And he was in Merced County. That's where we lived. But see, I was born in Santa Clara County. But he told me, he goes, "You know what? I think there's a group in Santa Clara County." I was, "Oh, shoot. Okay." So I contacted this gentleman. His name is Neil Kiley. I always say he was my angel. Neil Kiley, older gentleman. He's probably passed away by now, but he was looking like about late 70s back then. That was 20 years ago. But so I went to the meeting. It was at a Kaiser hospital, and inside this room, and there was like 6 of us there. And he goes, "Just bring all the information you have." So I had my birth certificate. I had paperwork that I still have now. It's right here in my hand.
Oh, Jim, wait, I want to see it. Can you put it closer for those of us that are podcasting?
See,
gosh.
This is from the county. And see, look at somebody in the county named me Freddie. I still don't know who
named you Freddie?
Yeah, I don't know who named me Freddie.
You do not look like a Freddie.
Yeah, I don't know who named me. But I'm sure that hospital and all that stuff, or wherever I was with that piece of paper, is gone. So, so after I got all that work, Neil Kiley tells me, after a 2-hour meeting, and we lived about an hour and a half from that meeting, and he goes, "All right, Jim. Well, by tonight, I'll have your mother's maiden name." You go, "What?" Okay, whatever. Me and Tina just like, okay, who's this guy?
That's crazy.
So we got home, and he called me like, I think it was that night or the next day. He says, "Hey, Jim, I got 3 names for you." Because you do.
Really?
Goes, yeah.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
I got a name and an address, and names and addresses. And there were names. The 3 names were one in LA County, one in, I think was in San Diego or Orange County, and the other one was in San Jose, Santa Clara County. And so I had all the 3 names and the 3 addresses, right? So So I had them
Oh,
in
I
my
bet
wallet.
you were so nervous and excited and
Oh yeah. I mean, so
oh
I'm just
my
waiting.
gosh.
I'm just waiting
Yeah.
to, okay, which one is my birth mother?
Yeah,
You know?
eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah. So I was delivering concrete in Santa Clara County, right? So I got empty from the job site. I was on the way back to the yard. And the address of that one of the ladies was in White Road in San Jose. And I just happened to look. I go, wow, there's the address of the house.
Yeah, I'm pulling over.
Yeah,
Here comes some concrete.
I pulled over. I go, okay, what can I say? Because Neil Kylie was telling us what you could do, what you shouldn't do, right?
Right.
So
because it could be a shock. Of course. Yeah.
So in my mind, I said, I'm not going to lose out on this opportunity. I'm just going to lie. So I walked up to the house. I was in the mixer already. So big old giant truck in front of their house, right? I knocked on the door and this gentleman opened the door and I looked at him and go, man, you kind of look like me. And I go, hi, did you order any concrete? I'm kind of looking for this address. He goes, no, we didn't order no concrete. I said, oh, okay. So I got back in my truck and went back to the yard, right?
Right. So
about 3 weeks after that, I was at my cousin Marcos's house in Gilroy, which is probably about 45 minutes from Los Pinos, our home. And Neil Kylie called me that night. He called me about 6:00 that night. And he goes, hey, Jim, I got your mother's name because you do.
wow.
Yes. So which one is it? She goes, it's the one in San Jose on White Road. He goes, oh. And I told him, I just stopped there like 3 weeks ago. And he goes, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, why did you do that? Well, this is what I did. He goes, and he just laughed at me. He goes, well, here's the number. Call her. I says, okay. Oh. So that night,
Jim.
An hour later, I had enough courage to give her a call on the phone. So I called her, and she's. I knew that she already had a younger a son and a daughter that was 5 and 4 at the time of my birth. Then she gave me up. But then she had her husband that she's married to now. They had another son. His name was Paul, and then Bobby, and then Wanda. So I called. She answered the phone. I go, hi, is Bobby there? He goes, no. I go, how about Paul? He says, no. I go, who's this? He goes, well, this is Jim Serrano. And she kind of weird. Goes, well, she didn't really know who I was. She used to tell me, goes, oh, I know all my friends. I mean, my sons and daughters' friends' names. I know all. Because they were big into wrestling, high school wrestlers, all that. So we knew a lot of, they had their own group, right? So, so she was real quiet on the phone. Because I asked her, it goes, well, this is something I'm going to ask you, and I'm just going to say it. It goes, does January 22nd, 1962 mean anything to you?
Oh, wow.
And there was
that's a moment.
Yeah, there was dead silence on the phone.
Gosh.
Dead silence.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I remember her going, wow, who is this? Why are you doing this? And he goes, this is who you think it is. If this is the right person I'm reaching out to. And she goes, wow, okay. And she was real quiet, and then she goes, can I call you tomorrow? I go, yeah, you can call me tomorrow. You can call me tomorrow. So, excuse me, give me some water.
Yeah, I know. It's a story you're telling, Jim.
Yeah.
You probably need more than water.
Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. Watch, I'm going to show you another thing, the good thing that happened out of this. So, I got home. I was so a wreck with the conversation that my in-laws had to pick me up to take me home to Tina. So that night, me and Tina were in the bed and we were talking about the whole situation, and the phone rang, and it was her. It was Noberta. Her name is Noberta.
Oh, that's a beautiful name.
No, her maiden name was Montoya, and her last name now is Dominguez, which her husband she's married to now is Paul Dominguez. So she calls me. She goes, hey, Jim, can you meet me tomorrow at Valley Medical? My kids have doctor appointments. Okay, I guess I'll meet you at Valley Medical. So I got there at 10 in the morning, met her in the parking lot, and she comes out of her car with a bunch of kids, and she just looks at me. She hugs me, and cries, and I didn't have no emotions. It was just like, okay, there's this stranger hugging me, crying. I didn't have no emotions because, back then you had a lot of things growing up thinking what you're going to tell her,
Oh yeah, of course.
the anger,
Yeah, and
the
then
anger
when the
issues.
moment, yeah, and then when the moment arrives, it's completely different.
Completely
than you
different.
play it
Yeah,
out in your head.
I didn't have nothing to say. So she just says, "You want to come with me to my kids' appointments?" I go, well, sure. So I went with them to the doctor appointments, and then she tells me, she goes, "Jim, you're a secret." I goes, "What do you mean?" I goes, "Your siblings don't know that you exist, and my husband that I'm married to now doesn't know that you exist. So I have to go home to tell my husband and your siblings that you exist."
That's a lot.
Yeah. So she told me, she goes, "Well, I don't know what husband's going to do. He might throw me out. I don't know." So she says, "But I know God," which she tells me now that God gave her a second chance. So she went home to tell her husband, and her husband, I always have respect for her husband, Paul Dominguez, that he said to her, it's not his fault this happened to him in his life. Why can't we invite him to the family? So I think it was like that weekend I went to go meet my two brothers. And
that had to be incredible. Had to be incredible.
So I met them. I couldn't meet my sister Wanda because Wanda was living in Montana with her husband and her family. So met them. I seen all the kids again, right? So I got home that night, and then we called each other on the phone again. And I go, then I had to ask her a question. It goes, "Who are all those kids that were in your house?" Because they were all little kids, right? I'm all thinking,
you're like, are you continuing to like?
Yeah. Are those your grandkids or something?
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah. But no, she kind of knocked me to the floor. She was a foster parent for 25 years. Her and her husband were foster parents.
Wow. It was almost like a redemptive act.
Yes. That's exactly why she did it. That's why she did it. That's what she told me.
Oh my
why she did it.
Goodness, Jim.
She just retired like 2 years ago from being a foster, and she's 82 years old. 82. Yeah, 82. And she just retired 2 years ago from being a foster parent.
That's really stunning.
Yeah, because of trying to pay God back for what she did by giving me up, keeping her Bobby and Wanda and giving me up. And that's another issue that I had to deal with too. When I found that out, I goes, why did you keep them and not keep me? And that's a lot of anger and disappointment in my life. Man, what the heck was wrong with me? Why did I have to be kicked to the curb, but you kept them?
Yeah. Did she ever answer that, Jim? I mean, can you share that? Did she ever answer?
She just said that she just couldn't deal with it. I mean, she didn't even know it was day or night that I was born. She remember telling me that her brother took her to the hospital and picked her up from the hospital. I asked her too about why didn't my grandparents keep me?
Right. You wonder, like, what were there any other options that were explored?
Yeah. See, so it's kind of like there's a last scene of that movie, Antoine Fisher, if you ever see it. It's called at the end of the movie, he comes home and all the family is there and a big old giant dinner. He's meeting all his cousins. And there's one scene in there that I love. It's my next tattoo I want to get. And
we need to talk about tattoos.
Yeah. it's his grandmother knocking at the dinner table with all the family around and tells him, "Come here," with her finger. So he walks to his grandmother, and the grandmother puts her hands on his face and says, "Welcome."
Oh, Jim.
Because I never got to meet any of my grandparents. And I never had a relationship with grandparents. And I always wanted that. I never got it. So when I see that scene all the time, I go, okay, that's my next tattoo. Because I got different tattoos. Every tattoo means something in my life that I've gone through. I mean,
that's so amazing, Jim. Our photographer, creative director, Stephanie Joy Pipes, she's amazing. But she was actually telling me, she said, "Oh my goodness, Heidi, it was incredible because I haven't seen the image yet, but she was talking about your tattoo. And maybe we can just depart for a minute and you can tell me, because we'll be seeing that in your promotional materials. So can you tell us more about those tattoos?"
Oh, well, I got two of them that mean a lot to me. Well, first of all, there's one of my daughter, a portrait of my daughter when she was 2, because there's one thing that every adoptee feels in their heart, especially when you become a parent, is, wow, somebody's my blood finally. So I have a portrait of her when she was 2 on my arm. I have the line from a movie from Antoine Fisher, when he goes and confronts his foster parent that beat him, and the foster parent's daughter that sexually abused him his whole childhood. And he goes back to the house and tells him, it goes, I'm the victory here. And the favorite line of that scene was, "I'm still standing. I'm still strong." I have that tattooed on my calf. And then there's then the other one I have on my calf is a gentleman slouched over, like he can't even stand up, and Christ is in back of him holding him up, because when you feel like you can't go on anymore in life, he's there to help you up. And that's how I found him, was through this whole story I'm telling you right now, is when I thinking all the stuff that happened to me in my life, I'm thinking, how did I make it? Well,
that's what's going to be my question for you, Jim. How have you survived this? I mean, just thinking about what you've been through. And I think what startles me so much about you, and what I find so inspiring, and I'm sure anybody that meets you or hears your story will feel the same, is that some people go through one of those things and they turn bitter. And I know you said you had anger and you had alcohol things, but it all makes so much sense. And that probably, it's such a hard thing to overcome, even one of those things. But the fact that you were able to recover your life and do good with it and have a wonderful marriage, I think what it gives people, especially adoptees who suffer so deeply, is hope that we can figure out a way to maybe integrate our trauma to, with community, with finding each other, with telling a story. And I am new to coming out of the fog. It's only 6 months for me. So these stories are hugely impactful. And I just think that you're such a testimony to what is possible. And I'm sure you have difficult days still, but I always will. I think what adoptees need too, and especially, you were talking about suicidal ideation, and we're actually going to be talking to a health professional about that very soon. And, I think it's so important that we're able to talk about that. You can be so wanting to check out of this world and be able to come back and fully embrace your life. And that is not an easy journey, Jim. And, I don't think it's one thing that happened to you, but I think about like your martial art. I think about the way you're connecting with other adoptees, and of course your relationship with your faith. So I just wanted to put that out there, that
thank you.
That it helps me feel stronger to know that, man,
it's all for a reason, right?
You can keep going, and we can use our pain for meaning.
Exactly.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I asked Roberta if I thought maybe the blood test was wrong about Carlos, right? So I asked her, "Who's my father? Is it Carlos Bryan?"
Yeah, goes, tell me.
That's not your father. Your father is Raw Coca. Goes, Raw Coca. I goes, well, where can I find him? Because, well, I don't know. I haven't seen him since the time we had that brief affair. I haven't seen him in 36 years. But I know his brother has a furniture store in downtown San Jose that was there for like 50 years. So I walked in there and I asked for it was called Hank Coca's Downtown Furniture. And and my birth father's name is Raw Coca. So I walked in there, and because I was on a job site right across the street. So I walked in there.
You were with your concrete.
So I walked in there, and a gentleman looked at me. His name was Hank Coca Jr. He goes, "Hi, can I help you?" He goes, "Yeah." Do you know a Raw Coca? And he goes, yeah, I know Raw Coca. That's my uncle. He goes, oh, okay. Well, I have something. I'm just going to say it. I'm looking for him. Well, who are you? He goes, I'm his son. And he looked at me kind of weird. His son? He goes, yeah. He goes, here's my number. Here's my biological mother's name. Can you give this to your uncle? And he looks at me and goes, okay, I guess. So he gives it to him. And so probably a week later, I never heard nothing back from them, right? And so Norberta was throwing a party for me, the whole time. She was throwing a party for me to introduce me to the family. So that was in San Jose. And all this time, my mom was still going through breast cancer, and they were still not comfortable. They weren't comfortable at all with me searching. That's one thing.
Jen, can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think I shared with you on our first phone call, one of the reasons that I wrote the book and started this movement, I hope to be a movement, at least it's a movement for me, is because when I found my birth mother, my adopted mom, who I was very close to and loved, like she was my person, she turned on me. And when I found my birth mom, she had breast cancer. And then a year later, I had it. Yeah. And there was all of these plot twists that I didn't see coming. And I literally snuck around and saw my birth family because I didn't want to hurt my adopted mom. And it created all this guilt and shame. And we spent 20 years in turmoil, and I could never heal it, Jim. I could never heal it. And it feels like the price was just too high. And I think if anything, if there are people that are adopting children, and I just hope that they hear our voices. Yes. That when you adopt a child, it is possible that they're going to want to know. The degree to that is all varied, but it's normal and it's expected, and you can get through it. I feel like, and I'm not blaming my adopted mom. Of course I had anger, but I just felt like it was another rejection because I'm like, this is me. I am adopted. I do have two sets of parents. So it was so damaging to the soul. And I wonder, like, you had kind of the opposite problem where I had my birth mother with cancer and you have your adopted mom with cancer. Yeah. So that's like a double zinger. Whoa.
And that's the first time I heard I love you from my adopted mom. Because
really?
Because I think it was because me searching. See, so I think maybe it was maybe feeling guilt. Why did you search? And I told him I found them. And that's when I finally heard I love you. I never heard it from my dad. Because my dad wasn't comfortable with it either. So after I get home from the party, this is a month later, Tina tells me, you got to listen to the answering machine. I said, okay. I turned it on. It says, hi, this is Raw Coca. I think I'm your father. Can you meet me at Original Joe's downtown San Jose? Yeah. So I met him at a restaurant like 2 weeks after that phone call. Here he comes walking, and I'm looking at him and goes, wow, this guy looks just like me. But he was really thin built because I got big shoulders and stuff like that. And when I met him, he kind of says, okay, I remember Norberta. Okay, I remember that. But see, it was a big shock for him too, because he was never married and never had any kids.
Oh my gosh, goodness. That had to be amazing for him.
So we did the blood test, and of course it came back positive. So that's my birth father, but our relationship was like, so it wasn't really a father and son because he didn't really know. Tina used to tell me all the time, babe, he doesn't know how to react. He doesn't know how to act as a father. He's never been married, or he doesn't have a wife that could show him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have any kids. Yeah. He doesn't have any kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you parent an adult without when you skip the whole childhood part?
Instead of me telling him, hey, you owe me back child support. So
that would have been a good one.
Yeah. So so after we met, it went on for a while. Like I said, the relationship was okay. He passed away about 7 years ago, just like my adopted father passed away 7 years ago. He battled with dementia, And the funny part about it is when my dad did develop dementia, it was me and Tina that I got elected by my siblings to be conservator to take care of my dad. And I was the adopted one.
Jim, that's so stunning to me because I think, I was the one next to my mom when she passed away. Mm-hmm. And I told her I would never leave her. And I feel honored that even though our relationship was in a lot of pain, mm-hmm. that I did what I said I would do, that I stayed with her. And it's very hard because I think with your dad, it sounds really mm-hmm. complicated. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit about, now that he's gone, were mm-hmm. you guys able in those last, months of his life or maybe weeks, were you able to have any peace in your heart or resolution, or did that come after he passed? Or was it just like, how did you deal with that?
Everything was just the same. I just felt very sorry for him because he was a very prideful man. He was a very perfectionist. And to see someone like that also become weak. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm being truthful. With people with dementia, I had to go take a shower with them. I had to shower him because the water would scare people with dementia on their heads. They would start screaming. Really? So I had to go and take a shower with my dad. You know how thinking, wow, my dad taught me how to drive, got me this job. We both retired. He was a perfectionist, and I'm doing this now. So that just like, I thought I was going to go crazy there too. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm doing all this. And from a father that never showed me any love. Yeah.
Well, I think that speaks volumes to your character, that you were able to feel the humanness in him, even though he was this person that didn't give you what you needed. Yeah. That's just amazing to me, Jim, that you were able to do that with compassion, because I have to say, like, when my mom was really sick, there were a lot of times I was so numb and so closed off that I didn't feel it. Every now and then I'd break through and have a moment where I would soften. But I think I was just trying to protect my heart, because really death is another form of abandonment.
Yes.
They're not doing it on purpose.
Yes.
But it was just triggering all kinds of nonsense in me. And I just, I think back on it. I wish I could have done what you did and been a little more compassionate, but water under that bridge.
Yeah, exactly.
But I hope that when we tell these stories, that those that are going to be dealing with these things have a better roadmap. I really hope so, Jim.
Now the good part about the drinking.
Yeah, let's get to the happy news. Okay. Yes, and I have a couple other questions for you.
Okay. So my birth mother decided she wants to throw me a surprise birthday party on my 38th birthday, right? So I found out about it and I said, oh no, I don't want this to happen. And because you're going to invite my family too. I go, oh. So I found about it. I was a nervous wreck. I got to the party. I walked to the party. Surprise! She closed a restaurant down with all my friends and family and all that. And there they are. My birth mother, her husband, my brother and her family, and my mom and dad sitting
I would have had a heart attack right there. I would have had a heart attack right there.
Who in the heck would sit them on the same table? And I seen my mom's face and I seen my dad's face. My dad's face was nothing but anger. My mom's face was just like, she wanted just to cry. And I'm all thinking, wow. So I walked in there, got drunker than drunk that night. My friends buying me drinks. Oh, yeah. Just escape from reality, right? So, but I'll remember that the last thing that night was my dad and my mom walking away. They were outside. My dad says, he pointed at me. He goes, Jim, we're going to talk about this tomorrow. And he was angry. No. He was angry. So the next day, Jim. I was in my bedroom and I felt like my heart was coming out of my chest and I collapsed. So I yelled for Tina. I go, babe, there's something wrong with me. Call an ambulance. Ambulance came and got me. And they thought I had a massive heart attack, took me to ICU. I was in there for 2 to 3 days. And also, I always remember this because I just mentioned it because I just remembered on my last time I told the podcast. was, here's my mom and dad walking in to come and visit me in the ICU. And my birth mother's on the other side of the room. And they don't even say one thing. They don't say one thing to each other. And I'm just sitting in the bed and they're just looking at me. And I go, oh, Lord, there is a Lord. Just take me now. I want to just die. Don't you people realize what you're doing to me?
Too much.
So I was released 3 days later and they say, okay, Jim, you didn't have a massive heart attack. I go, what the heck was I in the ICU for then? So they says, you need to go see a therapist. So I went to go see a therapist like a couple of weeks after. And of course, he wants to hear my story. He goes, okay, we're going to give you Paxil, this antidepressant. Oh, great. Now I'm going crazy because I can't even go to work and I'm curled up like a little baby in my bed and I can't get on with life. So I was out of work for like 2 months and finally I got better. Went back to work. First person I seen was this guy named Isaac Dominguez, Concrete Pumping. He goes, hey, well, Jim, where you been? I haven't seen you in a while. So I kind of told him the story. He goes, hey, Jim, you want to come to church with me? It's a Friday night service. I goes, nah, I don't want to go to church. Because I'm not into that. I was into religion, but not relationship, you call it, right? So, so that Friday night, it was about 7:00. The service was at 7:00. This was like 7:15, and I was like, I'm not going to that thing. And then something told me, Jim, just go. He's trying to help you out. And I'm still dealing with that stuff, still on the antidepressants and stuff.
Yeah, still fresh. Yeah.
So I get there, and he was still waiting for me at the stairs. It was 7:30 already, and he was still waiting for me. So I got there. I went into the church and seen all these people with their hands raised up and singing. I go, oh, I got a bunch of wackos, in my mind, what's wrong with these people? So then something happened. I just felt, it felt pretty good. The songs are good and all that. And people are nice.
I'm here. I might as well enjoy myself.
So I told Tina, hey, let's go back on a Sunday. All right. So we went and I started feeling a little bit better. Still was on Paxil. And then one of the services on a Sunday, this was probably about a month after, I started feeling the anxiety coming. And she goes, do you have your pills with you, right? I go, yeah. I'll go take one. So I go take one. And it usually kicks in like about a half hour, right? I felt, by the time I took it, I got back to my seat. It was like maybe 5 minutes. I felt different. My whole mind felt different. I just felt different, like a calm. So I went home that night. I got all my medication. I threw it down the drain. And
oh my goodness.
I went to the therapist like 2 days later and goes, hey, Jim, how you doing? He goes, good. I don't think I need to see you no more. Because what? Yeah, I threw all my medication down the drain. He goes, you can't do that, Jim. You can't do that.
No, I did.
Well, sorry, I did. So this is my last session with you. I don't need to see you no more. And he just shook his head. And then that Friday night, we were watching, remember that program 2020?
Oh, yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yes.
So they had a special that Friday night on antidepressants, and one of them was on Paxil, how people were getting off of it too quick and committing suicide.
Oh, gosh, Jim.
Tell me about it. Is that weird or what? So after all that happened, my life has just changed for the last 21 years. And that 38th birthday party was the last time I had even a taste of alcohol. I just celebrated 21 years of sobriety.
Congratulations. That's amazing, Jim. It really is. That's just an incredible story.
So right now, all there's left is my biological mother. She's still alive. And everybody else has passed away. And like I said, I've been telling my story for the last couple of years now. And a lot of my siblings have been hearing my story too. But the one thing that's hurt me, Polly, is I always think about, why didn't they ever ask me how I've been doing? Why haven't they ever asked me who was it? How come they never have gave me a call to tell me, how you doing, Jim? Like I never got a call or why? It's like weird. This is weird. And you
it
say
is.
you love
I think,
me?
yeah. I think as I'm learning and reading, I think one of the things that stands out is the false narrative.
Yes.
When I'm reading. And I think that is that I always felt that I was supposed to be grateful. And that if I had any uncomfortable feelings about or sadness or questions, that was bad and I should be ashamed of myself.
Exactly.
And it's not that I wasn't grateful or didn't love. I loved my adoptive family. My dad was a rough character. But I mean, there was a lot of difficulties there, but I had an amazing grandmother. And it wasn't about that. It was about knowing our own story and who we are. And not having to feel ashamed for that. And I think society in general feels that I don't think they're aware that adoption is trauma. It is loss.
Exactly.
And even though I think a lot of people, and including myself, felt that, well, I was just a tiny baby. How could I have it mattered? Well, guess what? It does. It does matter. And it matters that you need to fill in the blanks. And I think that people don't ask because it doesn't really occur to them. Exactly. And I think that it's kind of our job to educate at this point, including educating myself because I'm new to this. You've been at it a lot longer than me. So Jim, as our time starts to wrap up, there's a couple of other things that really stood out to me. First of all, I just want to thank you for sharing so intimately your story with so much rich detail. Like, that's important and powerful. If you were going to sum it up for adoptees or people listening, is there something that you really want them to know if they're in despair? Or I just think you have lived both sides of this. The most devastating part and the part where you've come into the light.
Yes.
And what encouragement can you give to those who are hurting?
Well, all my life I always felt I was alone. You're not alone. There's people that you could reach out to, and people do love you. I mean, I met so many adoptees this last couple of years, especially with this COVID, so many Zoom meetings and stuff like that. It's like, I could look at another adoptee and I could say, that's my sibling right there. Because I have so much love for other adoptees. I want to hug every adoptee I've met. I want to hug them, and just to hold on to them, not even to say nothing to them, just to hug them, and listen. If they want to tell me their story, go ahead, tell me your story. I always tell people, God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth to do more listening.
Yes.
So listen to people's stories.
Yes.
And don't give up. There is hope for you. Even though you don't think there is hope, there is hope. Something will come out of your trauma. And with me, I always think, okay, what came out of my trauma was me not being ashamed to tell my story, especially to be being molested by a male. I mean, come on, that's not something a man wants to talk about,
Of course not.
But there's no shame there no more. It's how you help others. And other men have approached me the last couple of years to tell me, okay, this happened to me, Jim. I go, well, it's okay. Let's talk about it. We have probably the same feelings, and we'll talk about it. So I'm realizing, okay, all this trauma was for a reason. So that's my hope. Just don't give up. And there is hope out there, but you just got to live in the trauma, because you're always going to live in the trauma. You're going to die with that trauma, but it gets better the more you tell your story. With me, this is like a healing process for me, because I used to break down all the time when I was tell my story. Today, I only felt like I almost broke down once, but you know what? It's like, and I always tell, one of the podcasters asked me one time, how do you feel after you tell your story? I feel like I did 100 rounds in the ring, because it's so emotional.
It's emotional labor.
I'm going to sleep good tonight. I know that, but it's this emotional thing. And the more I tell it, the more the healing is. So when anybody wants to hear my story, I'll tell it, because Jim, it might help somebody.
It has certainly helped me, and your generous heart has helped me. And I found something on your website, the blog, and I thought it would be really amazing to end with this. This was written by one of your blog submissions. Her name is Amanda Medina, and it's called The Mantra. And I just think it'd be a beautiful way to end this. And so, Amanda, if you're out there, this is brilliant.
Hi, Amanda.
I accept myself as I am. I allow myself to feel what comes to me in response to my experience. I am normal for someone who has been through what I have been through, and there is nothing wrong with me. I release the guilt. It was never mine to carry. I promise to allow myself to grow, to heal, and to empower myself because I am worthy of love, respect, and safety. I promise to allow myself to keep my peace because I do not owe anyone my love, my attention, my heart, my soul.
Yes.
I was born to live happy. I exist and I belong on this earth.
Perfect.
Jim, I cannot wait for that real life hug.
I wish I could hug everybody.
Thank you so much for being you, for being a bright light, a beacon, and I hope you get a really good night's rest.
I will.
I will be in touch soon, Jim. Okay. From my heart to yours, thank you.
Thank you. I love you, Heidi.
I love you too, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.